Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
The hum of the hospital was a constant, a low-grade thrum of life and death that served as the soundtrack to Port Charles. For Dr. Hamilton Finn, it was usually a comforting white noise, the sound of purpose. But today, it grated on his nerves, a dissonant symphony to the chaos raging in his mind. He stood at the nurse's station on the 4th floor, staring blankly at a patient chart, the words blurring into an indecipherable mess of medical jargon. All he could see, superimposed over the typed font, was the shattered look in Elizabeth Weber's eyes just hours before, and the cold, triumphant glare of his brother, Harrison Chase. The fallout from the truth about his daughter, Violet, and the paternity lie that had driven a wedge between him and Elizabeth was a fresh, open wound. He had spent the last several months in a haze of grief and addiction, a chasm opened by the belief that he had lost his child, only to be pulled back from the brink by Chase himself. His brother had been his savior, his anchor. To discover that the same brother had known the truth, that Violet was indeed Finn's biological daughter, that the initial test had been tampered with by a vengeful enemy, and had withheld it, was a betrayal that felt like a physical blow. It wasn't just the lie, it was the manipulation, the way Chase had used Finn's vulnerability to position himself as the family hero, all while secretly coveting the life Finn was crumbling away from. "Dr. Finn? Your 10 o'clock is in room 42. Vitals are stable, but she's complaining of renewed dizziness." Finn blinked, the nurse's voice pulling him from the precipice of his dark thoughts. "Right. Thank you, Amy." He closed the chart with a snap that was louder than intended, making the young nurse jump. He offered a weak, apologetic smile that didn't reach his eyes before striding down the corridor, his lab coat flapping behind him like the wings of a distressed bird. He needed a moment. Just a moment to breathe, to compartmentalize. He pushed through the door to the doctor's lounge, hoping for solitude, but the universe, it seemed, had other plans. The air in the room was thick, charged with a different kind of tension. Carly Corinthos stood by the window, her back to him, her posture rigid. She wasn't just a fixture in Port Charles, she was a force of nature, a woman who carved her own path through the world with a blend of fierce loyalty and ruthless determination. And right now, the energy radiating from her was pure, undiluted fury. She turned as he entered, and Finn was taken aback by the raw emotion on her face. Her eyes, usually so sharp and calculating, were red-rimmed, glistening with unshed tears and a fire that promised retribution. This wasn't the savvy businesswoman or the protective matriarch, this was a woman cornered, a woman who had lost something precious and was ready to burn the whole world down to get it back. "Carly?" Finn's voice was cautious. "Is everything all right?" A bitter, hollow laugh escaped her lips. "All right?" "No, Finn. Nothing is all right. Nothing has been all right for a long time." She wrapped her arms around herself, a self-soothing gesture that seemed at odds with her usual formidable presence. "It's Sunny. And it's Brennan." The name sent a familiar, cold trickle down Finn's spine. Agent John Brennan of the WSB was a specter that haunted many lives in Port Charles, a man who operated in the gray spaces of the world, his motives often obscured by a cloud of bureaucratic authority and personal vendetta. Finn had his own complicated history with the man, a tangled web of past threats and uneasy alliances, primarily concerning his late wife, Reiko, and her connections to a dangerous biotoxin. Brennan was a collector of secrets and a wielder of leverage. He was a man you did not want as an enemy. "What about them?" Finn asked, moving slowly to the coffee machine, more for something to do with his hands than out of any real desire for caffeine. "It's all a lie, Finn," Carly said, her voice dropping to a desperate, conspiratorial whisper. "This entire situation. Sunny's death in Greenland. His amnesia. Nina keeping it from me. All of it. Brennan orchestrated the whole thing." Finn paused, the coffee pot hovering over a mug. "Orchestrated? What are you talking about?" "Sunny was shot, he fell into the water, he was presumed dead. He washed up in Pennsylvania with no memory. Those are the facts." "Are they?" Carly challenged, stepping away from the window and towards him. "Or are they the facts Brennan wanted everyone to believe?" Think about it, Finn. The timing. The convenience. The way he just happened to be the one to find Sunny's body wasn't there. The way he inserted himself into the investigation, controlling the narrative. He used Sunny. He used his vulnerability, his memory loss, to turn him into an asset. Mike was a blank slate, and Brennan was there to write his own story on him. The pieces began to click into place in Finn's mind, forming a picture that was both horrifying and terrifyingly plausible. He had always found the official story of Sunny's disappearance and reappearance a little too neat, a little too cinematic. But to suggest that a high-level WSB agent had engineered it, it was the stuff of spy thrillers, not the messy reality of their lives. Yet, looking at Carly's face, he saw no hint of conspiracy theory, only the stark, painful light of truth. Why? Finn asked, finally pouring the coffee, his hand remarkably steady despite the tremor in his voice. Why would he go to such lengths? Power, Carly stated simply, as if it were the most obvious answer in the world. And perhaps it was. Control. Leverage over me, over Jason, over the entire Corinthos organization. With Sunny in his pocket, a weapon he could point at anyone, he becomes the most powerful man in Port Charles. He can dismantle my life piece by piece, and he's been doing exactly that. He's the reason the SEC investigation was so relentless. He's the one pulling the strings, making sure I'm backed into a corner at every turn. She walked right up to him now, close enough that he could see the fine lines of exhaustion around her eyes, the tremble in her lower lip that she was fighting to control. He took my husband from me, Finn. Not the river, not the bullet. Him. He stole those months, he stole Sunny's peace, he manipulated a sick man and turned him against his family. And he's not done. He's never done. He'll keep taking and taking until there's nothing left of any of us. Finn felt a surge of sympathy for her. He understood loss. He understood the feeling of having your life hijacked by forces beyond your control. Carly, I'm sorry. That's monstrous. But what can I do? I'm just a doctor. This is a matter for the authorities, for the WSB itself. The WSB? Carly's laugh was sharp, derisive. He is the WSB here, Finn. He's untouchable. He has files on everyone. He has dirt that could bury this entire town. Going through channels is exactly what he wants. It's a game to him, and he's always 10 moves ahead. She placed a hand on his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. But he has a weakness. Everyone does. And his weakness is his arrogance. He thinks he's covered every angle. He thinks no one would dare come for him directly. She took a deep, shuddering breath, her eyes locking with his, pleading and commanding all at once. But I know something. I found a thread, and if I pull it, his whole world could unravel. Finn's internal alarm bells began to ring. This was the precipice. This was the moment where a problem that belonged to Carly Corinthos and Sunny Corinthos was about to become his problem. He could feel it, a tectonic shift in the atmosphere of the room. Carly, whatever you're thinking, you need to be careful. A man like Brennan, if you confront him, if you try to expose him without ironclad proof, he won't just ruin you. He'll destroy you. He'll make what happened with the SEC look like a slap on the wrist. I know the risks, she whispered, her voice fierce. I'm living the risks. But I can't live like this anymore. I can't look at my husband, see the ghost of the man Brennan created, and know that the puppet master is still out there, holding the strings. I have to do this. But I can't do it alone. The plea in her eyes was unmistakable. Finn felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. Why are you telling me this? Because you have a reason to want to see Brennan taken down, too, she said, her gaze unwavering. He threatened you. He threatened your research, your career, your freedom when Reiko was involved with that damn toxin. He holds that over you. He could decide to use it at any moment. You're living on a knife's edge because of him, same as me. And now, with everything that's happened with Chase, you understand betrayal. You understand what it's like to have your trust used as a weapon against you. She was right. The memory of Brennan's cold, assessing eyes, the implicit threats veiled in bureaucratic language, was still vivid. He had spent years trying to outrun the shadow of Reiko's work, and Brennan was the living embodiment of that shadow, a constant reminder that his past could be weaponized at any time. And Chase! God, Chase! The betrayal was a fresh poison in his veins. The idea of another man, another person in a position of trust, manipulating and lying for his own gain, made him feel physically ill. What is it you think I can do? Finn asked, his voice hoarse. I have a plan, Carly said, her voice dropping even lower, though they were alone. It's dangerous. It's probably stupid. But it's the only play I have left. I need to get into his personal files. Not his WSB files, those are too well guarded. His personal files. The ones he keeps in his private study at his off-the-books safe house. That's where he keeps the real dirt, the things not even the WSB can know about. That's where I'll find the proof of what he did to Sonny, and the leverage to make him back off for good. Finn stared at her, aghast. You're talking about breaking and entering into a WSB agent's home? Carly, that's not just dangerous, it's suicidal. If you're caught, he'll have you arrested so fast your head will spin. Or worse, he'll deal with you in a way that never sees the inside of a courtroom. I know, she insisted, her eyes blazing. Don't you think I know that? But it's the only way. And I can't do it by myself. I need a lookout. I need someone on the outside, someone he wouldn't necessarily connect to me, who can create a distraction if things go wrong. I need someone with a clean, respectable cover. A doctor. The audacity of the plan, the sheer, terrifying risk of it, left Finn breathless. She was asking him to be an accomplice to a felony that could end his career and land him in a federal prison. She was asking him to step into the ring with a professional predator. Carly, no, he said, shaking his head, taking a step back from her. I can't. I have Violet to think about. My life is a mess right now as it is. I'm hanging on by a thread after what Chase did. I can't get involved in this. I won't. He expected her to argue, to plead, to use her considerable powers of persuasion. He did not expect the transformation that came over her face. The desperation hardened into something else, something cold, resolute, and terrifyingly final. The tears in her eyes dried up, replaced by a flinty, uncompromising resolve. She was no longer a supplicant asking for a favor. She was a general issuing an order. She took one more step, closing the final distance between them. She was so close he could feel the heat of her anger, see the absolute conviction in her gaze. Her voice, when she spoke, was low, flat, and devoid of all the previous emotion. It was a statement of fact, a verdict. It's him, or it's me. The 6 words hung in the air between them, simple, shocking, and devastatingly clear. They were not a plea. They were an ultimatum. A declaration of war, and she was forcing him to choose a side. Finn felt the world tilt on its axis. The hum of the hospital faded into a distant buzz, the room seeming to shrink until it contained only the two of them and the colossal weight of those 6 words. It's him, or it's me. There was no ambiguity. She was not asking him to help her bring down Brennan. She was telling him that she was going to do it, with or without his help. And if he chose not to help her, if he chose to walk away, then he was, by her definition, choosing Brennan. He was aligning himself with the enemy. He was against her. And to be against Carly Corinthos was a perilous place to be. She was the sun around which much of Port Charles's social and financial solar system revolved. Her allies were powerful, her enemies were often ruined. She had just been through the ringer, yes, but a wounded lion was infinitely more dangerous than a content one. If he said no, he would be making an enemy of her. He would lose any friendship, any professional courtesy, any semblance of peace. She would see his refusal as a betrayal as profound as Chase's, and she would have the means and the will to make him pay for it. She could make his life at the hospital a living hell. She could influence donors, board members. She could turn the town against him. She could, in her own words, make it all over. On the other hand, saying yes meant walking directly into the crosshairs of John Brennan. It meant risking everything he had spent his life building, his career, his freedom, his ability to be a father to Violet. It meant becoming a criminal. It meant living with a fear and a guilt that would dwarf anything he had felt during his addiction. It was an impossible choice. A choice between two different kinds of destruction. He looked at Carly, truly looked at her. He saw the absolute, unshakable certainty in her eyes. This was not a bluff. This was her last stand. She had drawn a line in the sand, and she was forcing everyone to pick a side. There was no neutrality in her world, not anymore. The battle lines were drawn, and his name was on the roster, whether he liked it or not. The tension inside the dimly lit Metro Court restaurant was thick enough to cut with a knife. Carly Corinthos stood by the bar, her jaw tight, her eyes burning with determination. The entire city of Port Charles seemed to be holding its breath ever since the truth about Brennan began to unravel. Brennan, smooth-talking and dangerous, had played his cards too close to the vest for too long. He walked in like he owned the place, that smug confidence written all over his face. Carly didn't flinch when she saw him, she had been waiting for this moment. Everything in her life, every betrayal, every heartbreak, every battle, had prepared her for this conversation. Brennan gave her that smirk, the kind that had once fooled everyone into thinking he was just another businessman. But Carly wasn't fooled anymore. Brennan's tone was casual, almost too calm. "Carly, you called me here. I assume this isn't just about your world-famous coffee," he said with a hint of mockery. She didn't blink. "You know why you're here," she replied flatly. He chuckled. "If this is about Sonny, I already told you, I have no reason to go after him anymore. The Bureau's mess isn't my concern." Carly's lips curled into a humorless smile. "Oh, it's not about Sonny this time," she said, stepping closer. Brennan tilted his head slightly, his confidence unwavering, but there was a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. "Then what is this about?" he asked. Carly took a breath, her voice lowering, almost trembling with intensity. "This is about me, Brennan. And it's about the truth you've been hiding." For a moment, Brennan's expression froze. Carly could see it, the hesitation, the flicker of fear that came when a man like him realized someone had outmaneuvered him. She had been digging for weeks, pulling strings, calling in favors from people who still owed her from her time as Sonny's wife. She had found enough to corner him, and she wasn't afraid to use it. "You really think you can threaten me?" Brennan said, his tone sharpening. "I don't think," Carly shot back. "I know." She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. With a single swipe, she revealed a photo, one that made Brennan's face drain of color. The photo showed Brennan meeting secretly with a man tied to the Bureau's most classified operation, an operation that had gone terribly wrong. Carly didn't need to say anything more, but she did anyway, twisting the knife. "You thought no one would find out, didn't you? You thought your secret was safe." Brennan exhaled, forcing a smirk. "You don't know what you're talking about." Carly leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper that carried more weight than a shout. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about. And I know who you're protecting." Brennan's composure cracked for the first time. "You're playing a dangerous game," he warned. "So are you," she snapped. "And I'm done letting people like you run Port Charles." The energy between them was electric, fierce. Brennan tried to regain his footing, but Carly wasn't giving him an inch. "You think this gives you power over me?" he asked, his tone tightening. "No," she said coldly. "It gives me control." Brennan stepped closer, his voice lowering. "You should be careful, Carly. You're not in my world. You don't know the rules." She smiled bitterly. "You'd be surprised how much I've learned about rules, and how to break them." He was about to speak when she interrupted him, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "You're going to listen carefully, Brennan. Because what I'm about to say will decide how this ends for you." Brennan folded his arms, that familiar arrogance trying to creep back into his face. "Go on," he said. Carly stared him straight in the eyes, and with absolute certainty, she delivered the 6 words that stopped him cold. "You're done. Follow, or it's over." Those words hit Brennan harder than any bullet could. For a long second, he didn't move. "Follow," he repeated, his tone cautious. "You heard me," Carly said firmly. "You're going to work with me now. You're going to help me take down every person who's been using this town as their playground. And if you don't, if you even think about crossing me, then your secret goes public. And when it does, you lose everything." Brennan's mask slipped completely then. The calm, collected agent who had once controlled every move was now staring at a woman who refused to back down. "You don't know what you're getting into," he said quietly, almost pleading. "I know exactly what I'm doing," Carly countered. "I've spent years watching people manipulate, lie, and destroy everything I care about. You think I'm scared of you? I've survived worse." He took a step closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. "If you expose me, you'll burn with me." Carly didn't flinch. "Then light the match." The silence that followed was suffocating. Brennan looked away, clenching his jaw. He could tell she wasn't bluffing. The fire in her eyes wasn't anger, it was resolve. She had lost too much, and she wasn't going to lose again. When he finally spoke, his tone was different, lower, resigned. "You want me to follow your lead. What's your plan?" Carly exhaled slowly. "First, you come clean, completely. Every name, every file, every move you made. Then we take down whoever's been controlling this mess from behind the curtain. And when we're done, you disappear. For good." Brennan frowned. "And if I don't?" Carly smirked. "Then I send that photo to every news outlet in the country. And I make sure the Bureau knows you sold them out." He stared at her for a long time, weighing his options. Brennan had faced ruthless enemies before, but Carly Corinthos was something else entirely. She wasn't just threatening him, she was cornering him with truth and moral fire. Finally, he nodded slightly. "You've got guts," he muttered. Carly replied coolly, "No. I've got purpose." The conversation didn't end there. Brennan tried to test her resolve, asking questions, looking for cracks. "Why do you even care?" he asked. "This isn't your fight." Carly's answer came quickly. "Because people I love have paid the price for men like you. Because every time someone lies to protect themselves, another innocent person gets hurt. I'm done watching that happen." Brennan sighed. "You're making enemies you can't see coming." Carly's gaze hardened. "Let them come." Later, after Brennan left, Carly stood alone at the window of the Metro Court. The lights of Port Charles glittered below, a reflection of a city full of secrets. She could still hear his voice in her head, that warning tone, that arrogance hiding fear. She had faced mobsters, liars, and heartbreakers, but Brennan was different. This was a war of information and leverage, and she had just declared it. Meanwhile, Brennan made his way back to his car, slamming the door shut and gripping the steering wheel. 6 words, he muttered under his breath. 6 damn words, and she's got me. He couldn't shake the image of her eyes, those fierce blue eyes that had seen too much, endured too much, and still refused to bow. He knew he was in deep, but a part of him almost respected her for it. The next morning, Carly walked into Bobby's old diner, now reopened under new management but still holding memories. She sat down, ordered a coffee, and pulled out her phone. A message blinked on her screen, from Brennan. It read simply, "I'm in. But this isn't over." She smirked. "It never is." Over the next few days, they formed an uneasy alliance. Carly provided the connections, the intuition, the moral compass. Brennan provided access, knowledge, and the kind of inside power she needed to expose the corruption that had infected every corner of Port Charles. They met in secret, at docks, back rooms, and old warehouses, always careful, always 2 steps ahead. The more Brennan revealed, the clearer it became that this wasn't just about him, it was about something much larger. But the deeper they went, the more dangerous it became. One night, while going over evidence in the back office of the Metro Court, Brennan looked at her seriously. "You know there's no going back after this," he said. Carly looked up from the files. "There never was." And for a fleeting moment, something human flickered between them, not trust, not friendship, but understanding. Brennan had seen hundreds of people try to fight the system. They all failed. But Carly, she wasn't just fighting, she was winning. As the storm outside raged, Carly leaned back, her expression unreadable. "You're scared," she said softly. Brennan didn't deny it. "You should be too." Carly smiled faintly. "I stopped being scared a long time ago." Days turned into weeks, and every move they made sent ripples through Port Charles. Names came out, alliances cracked, and powerful figures began to fall. Brennan's fear grew as Carly's resolve strengthened. Every secret exposed brought them closer to the truth, and closer to danger. It all came back to those 6 words she had said that night: "You're done. Follow, or it's over." They weren't just a threat, they were a turning point. Carly had taken control of her fate and everyone else's around her. Brennan may have once believed he could manipulate her, but now he was the one following her lead. And as she stood at the Metro Court window once again, watching the dawn break over Port Charles, Carly whispered to herself, "It's only just beginning." Because for Carly Corinthos, there was no middle ground anymore, only victory or destruction. And she had already made her choice. The dim glow of the setting sun filtered through the lace curtains of Carly Corinthos' Metro Court suite, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floors. Port Charles had always been a city of secrets, a labyrinth of loyalties tested and broken under the weight of hidden agendas. Carly Spencer, once Corinthos, always a survivor, paced the room like a caged lioness, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Her blonde hair, usually impeccably styled, fell in loose waves around her shoulders, a testament to the chaos that had unraveled her day. Jason Morgan's words echoed in her mind, a relentless drumbeat: "Joss is in the WSB, Carly." And Brennan knew. "He's been lying to you this whole time." Lying. The word tasted like ash on her tongue. Jack Brennan, charming, enigmatic Jack, with his sharp Australian accent and eyes that promised adventure, had wormed his way into her heart after years of her guarding it like Fort Knox. They'd shared stolen kisses in the shadows of the docks, whispered confessions over late-night coffees at Kelly's, and even a few heated arguments that ended in makeup sessions that left her breathless. But now? Now it all felt like a house of cards, teetering on the edge of collapse. She glanced at the vase of lilies on the side table, the ones he'd sent just yesterday with a note that read, "Thinking of you always. Jay." With a surge of fury, she swept her arm across the surface, sending the vase crashing to the floor. Water pooled around the shattered porcelain, the flowers wilting like her trust. "Damn you, Jack," she muttered, sinking onto the edge of the velvet chaise lounge. Her hands trembled as she pulled out her phone, scrolling through their text messages. Flirty banter from last week. A heart emoji after he'd helped her navigate Sunny's latest mood swing. Lies, all of it. Downstairs, the Metro Court buzzed with its usual evening energy. Guests mingled in the lobby, clinking glasses and laughing over small talk, oblivious to the storm brewing above. Olivia Falconeri, ever the intuitive hostess, caught a glimpse of Carly's silhouette through the glass elevator as it descended. "Carly? You look like you could use a double espresso," Liv called out, her Brooklyn accent laced with concern. But Carly waved her off, her jaw set in determination. She needed answers, not sympathy. And she needed them from the source. Outside, the autumn air bit at her skin as she stepped onto the bustling sidewalk of Harborview Road. The leaves crunched underfoot, a mosaic of red and gold that mirrored the fire in her chest. Brennan's safe house, or what passed for one in a town where privacy was a luxury, was a nondescript brownstone on the outskirts, tucked away near the edge of the park where the wealthy hid their indiscretions. She'd been there a dozen times, sneaking in under the cover of night, her laughter echoing off the exposed brick walls. Tonight, though, there would be no laughter. Only reckoning. The door opened before she could knock, as if he'd sensed her approach. Jack Brennan stood there, his broad shoulders filling the frame, his dark hair tousled just so.